So today we are looking at a new topic called transportation of materials in living organisms. You can plainly call it transport. So that's the topic we are going to look at. Given that this is the first lesson, we are going to focus on what to expect in the topic. Why is this topic very important, and how different organisms actually get what they need. That's what we are going to look at. So organisms, plants, animals, even microscopic organisms need nutrients. They need gases. They need, for example, oxygen. They need minerals from the environment. So that means that they need to transport those or take up these nutrients, this material from the environment into their bodies. Okay. At the same time, when organisms take up this material is used for different purposes. So this material undergo metabolic reactions. Okay, they are metabolized, and in the process of metabolism, you have waste materials being produced. Okay, so it is important that the organisms or living things have the ability to move these material waste products out of their bodies. Okay, so we have seen two things, that the organism need certain material from the environment, but they also still produce material that need to be transferred or moved away from their bodies into the environment. So it's like we have two-way. Okay, we have a two-way. So each organism should have the ability to do that kind of exchange of material between it and the environment. So that's why we are talking about internal and then external movement of material. When we talk about internal, in this case, we are saying that we have materials that can be found in one part of the body, but they need to be used in another part of the body. So that means that they have to be moved. So they need there should be transport mechanisms to move this material from one point to another point. So that is what we call internal. And then for external is when you have an interchange of material between the environment and the organism itself. Okay, either when the organism is taking in, like I said earlier on, or when the organism is excreting products out. So all these require transport mechanisms. Okay, so if organisms don't have appropriate transport mechanisms, then there will be problems in them acquiring what they need. Organisms need nutrients, which we are referring to as food here. They need these nutrients for metabolic processes. Organisms will not grow if there are no nutrients, okay, if there are no minerals. So they need this. On top of that, they also need gases for purposes of respiration. Okay, these gases, oxygen is, for example, needed for aerobic respiration. So through the appropriate transportation mechanisms, organisms can be able to get nutrients and gases that they can use for metabolic or aerobic respiration. Okay, we also hinted on the fact that during metabolic processes, organisms generally release waste products. Urea, for example, is a waste product. Carbon dioxide, for example, is also a waste product of metabolic processes. So excretion of these products of metabolism is very important, because if these products accumulate in the organisms, they are poisonous, what you can call toxic. These organisms are these products are toxic, so they need to be removed. What we are terming as harmful here. These products are harmful, toxic, or poisonous, so they need to be treated. So that there should be mechanisms to transfer or transport these products out of the organism's body. And then so that is where it becomes very key. Transportation of nutrients, transportation of oxygen, and transportation of waste products. That's where transport becomes very important. So how do organisms transport the things that we have talked about? Usually we talk about cellular transport when we are talking about these mechanisms. Sometimes we can use the word or we can say movement in and out of cells. So if we will see something to do with cellular transport, what we have here, if you see something to do movement in and out of a cell, this is what we refer to. If you see something to do with transport across cell membranes, this is the same thing that we talk about. Okay, so usually we technically have two mechanisms of transporting materials in organisms: active transport and passive transport. Active transport, the moment you see the word active anywhere in biology settings, that word active means that there is expenditure of energy. Okay, so if someone says, please, you need to maintain an active lifestyle, it means that this person is telling you to exercise and lose some weight or spend some calories. Okay, so active in biology related to energy expenditure. Okay, the energy that we talk about in a living organism is in the form of ATP. The energy is in the form of ATP that you look at under respiration. Adenosine triphosphate. Okay, adenosine triphosphate is the form of energy that living organisms use. So active transport requires energy to move material against the concentration gradient. This word here, concentration gradient, is very important to note. Concentration gradient. Why is it very important to note? It is that the movement of these, like this, just 1 minute here. Need to pick a pen. Okay. Yeah, so we want to emphasize the concept of concentration gradient. What I'm underlining here. Concentration gradient, what does it really mean? In simple terms, if we had a solution, so this solution is because we have dropped a colored solids into this liquid that has turned into a solution. So assuming this solid that we have added is actually colored, it means that the whole solution will get the color of the color of the solid, and that phenomenon is what we call diffusion. That phenomenon is what we call diffusion. So this diffusion is along the concentration gradient. This is to say that the particles of this colored solute are diffusing from areas where they are highly concentrated to areas where there is a low concentration. So that is along. That is what we call along the concentration gradient. Now, against the concentration gradient is when you have particles move from low to high. Okay, so it is against, it is an uphill task. The task meaning that it's like you have to push in. So just assume that you are moving in a crowded place. Most of the people are moving in that direction. Okay, most people are moving in that direction, and then for you want to move in this direction. It is going to be difficult for you. So just look at it in that way. So for you to move in the opposite direction, you have to force your way. So you are using a lot of energy. So think about it in that manner. So that is what we call active transport, which is the movement of particles or materials against the concentration gradient with the expenditure of energy in the form of ATP. Okay, so examples of material that require transportation through active transport. We have the uptake of glucose in the intestines. That is, the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream requires energy. So we say the absorption of glucose is against the concentration gradient and requires the expenditure of energy in the form of ATP. It's the same thing that happens when the plant root hair, they are fine. That is to say that they are very small. If you use the word fine, it means it's small. Okay, so they are tiny or fine extensions of the root that absorb minerals. So for the absorption of mineral salts from the soil, the root hair have to use ATP in order to absorb these minerals. So these are two examples of active transport in animals and also in plants. And then we have passive transport. Passive transport, we are not using energy, and it is along the concentration gradient. Okay, we are not using energy, so the particles move without the need for ATP. That is very important for us to note. Okay, so the examples of passive transport, we have diffusion, osmosis, and then mass flow. We shall look at this in detail in our subsequent lessons. Okay, so in this presentation, we have really looked at why transport is very important. We have highlighted the fact that organisms need materials from the environment. This could be oxygen, this could be minerals, this could be nutrients. Okay, so they need to be taken in, but when they are taken in, they also have to move to other parts where they have to be used. So they need to have internal transport systems. And we have highlighted that we have two mechanisms of transporting materials, and we have passive transport with no energy required, and then active transport with energy being required, and it is always against the conservation gradient.